Writers, agents, and publishers, for the first time since the Gutenberg Press, find themselves lost in a maze of mystery as technology alters the shape of the publishing industry. Searching for Answers is a group of writers throwing pop culture, writing, and publishing into a crucible of clarity, passion, and humor. This group is the Write Pack.
Hello everybody and welcome to Write Pack Radio. This is your substitute host for the day, Kathleen Kayembe. I'm an author of paranormal romance under the pen name Kaseka and Vita. And with me today...
I'm Melanie Claney, author of sci-fi, fantasy, and nonfiction.
Meredith Tate, author of speculative YA and new adult.
My name is Jennifer Stolzer. I'm a children's book author and illustrator.
Brad R. Cook, YA author and all-around fun guy.
I like our table. Well, today...
If I do say so myself.
Exactly. I had to throw in something else.
Alrighty. Were we too boring?
No.
Sorry, y'all.
It just felt like there needed to be more. We don't have to
You realized you were the punchline.
I was the punchline, yes.
Alright, well...
That wasn't very funny.
I don't know, I laughed.
Well, today our topic is Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Goodreads. They are websites and, in the case of Barnes & Noble, brick-and-mortar stores that specialize in getting books to the public, helping people find books that they like, and, selling them. So, I just heard something about Amazon today that shocked me.
Do you want to start with that?
Well, we have to now.
Policy.
Yes. Yeah.
Horrible, yeah.
So what should I have started with, Melanie?
Well, just, something a little bit less controversial. But, no, go ahead. People are wondering now.
How about Meredith? You unpack that for us.
Oh, goody, okay. So, Amazon had started sending emails to people telling them that their review could not be posted for books because they know the author personally. It's a little sketchy as to where they're getting their information, but people think they are somehow finding it from Facebook or Twitter if you know an author, and they are telling people that they are not going to post their reviews because they know the author, which is ridiculous because, first of all, I have several very close friends I've known for years who hated my book and would not necessarily give me a good review. And second of all, there are always people that you meet after your book comes out because they read your book and liked it and want to connect with you. So, anyway, would anybody like to comment on this?
I had thought it was kind of a funny way of doing things because one of the things that we hear so much about what sells books more than any publicity we give is word of mouth. And with all the ways that fans and authors can connect now, of course, somebody that you meet either later or who wants to meet you because they love your work is probably going to meet you. And you might even end up Facebook friends. You might.
Well, there's another way they could have done this. They could have had basically a classification system. For instance, professional reviewers could have one little symbol, and people that know the author could have another symbol, and people that have never heard of the author could have a third symbol. And maybe they should call it Know the Author versus Friends, because how can you tell the difference?
Yeah, really. It's like, not to raise suspicion, but there are tons of people that I am friends with on Twitter that aren't actually my friends.
Really?
Most of them are businesses. But there are a few people that you follow. You courtesy follow someone. You follow them because they're funny, and you have no idea who they are, and they don't know you from Adam. It's not the same.
Trying to sell me Twitter followers aren't my friends.
Which brings up a much more important issue. But I'm much less concerned about friends reviewing books as I am about bots reviewing books.
Uh-huh.
Or like someone told me one time going on Goodreads and giving oh yes, I'll let Meredith.
Oh no, you finish your story.
I think it was your story that you told me, so you can go ahead.
Oh yes. Somebody on Goodreads who, and I'm saying this in air quotes, is a real person who has no profile picture, just a single letter for their name, 6,000 ratings, not a single text review, just ratings, is in a star system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1.0 average. I'm sorry, if you read 6,000 books and you hate them all, maybe you should stop reading. Because, that's just ridiculous. And to me, that says that's either a bot, for whatever reason is doing that, or it's another author trying to bring down books in their genre to make their own books stand out.
I'd like to give a quick overview of these three things because I realize not all of our listeners may be as familiar with these things as we are. So Amazon is an online retailer. It sells not just books, all sorts of things, but it also has ways of finding different books that are in categories you like, different classifications by price, all sorts of things. And it has hierarchy rankings, so the Amazon bestsellers lists for different genres and overall, and it has the ability to write reviews and to leave stars, 1 to 5 stars for different things that you liked or that you purchased. Barnes & Noble has brick and mortar stores and also an online site that does some of the same things that Amazon does. I do not think it is quite as big though. Amazon also has Kindle. Barnes & Noble has what?
Nook.
Nook.
Not anymore.
So
Not anymore.
e-readers.
Did they get rid of the Nook?
Well, it's in.
It was killing them. So
They just handed off they chopped off the part of that is the Nook.
They still sell the Nook in the store.
they
Not for
amputated
much
the
longer.
Nook.
Okay.
They amputated their Nook, which
They
is
did.
probably a good idea because it had gangrene.
Oh, so Barnes & Noble no longer has an e-reader officially, but Amazon does. Goodreads is a reading and reviewing and cataloging site. It's now owned by Amazon, but the basic premise is that on Goodreads, you can find books you like in some of the same ways as you do on Amazon, by genre. You can make friends with people on Goodreads, and you can rate books 1 to 5 stars, write reviews of them. You can fan authors, which is something else that worries me about this whole the author thing, because if you can fan an author and then become friends with them on Goodreads, you still don't know that author, but they're being nice.
I was gonna say, I'm friends on Goodreads with some pretty big authors, and I wish that they were my real life friends.
Yeah. But that's why I was so surprised at Amazon, in part, because it's hard to tell actual relationships versus online relationships based on, friending systems online.
It also says something about privacy and how they're creeping on you to get this information in the first place.
Well, we don't know for certain that they're
Yeah.
fishing out of people's social media. It makes sense that they're fishing out of people's social media because obviously that information is available on those sites, but there's no proof. We're just speculating.
And I don't think they're telling us because they don't want people to be able to game the systems. Like, oh yeah, we're getting it from Facebook, so people will get off Facebook to do that. That's why they're not telling people.
I think one of the other things that distressed me about it was it undercuts the kind of more democratic reader system that I think Goodreads has. And that was something that people were worried about, self-included, when Amazon bought Goodreads. On Goodreads, everybody's review or, number of stars was equally weighed. It didn't matter if you were an author or if you were just a reader. And it sounds like Amazon is now trying to weight different reviews.
Not even waste. Permit and not permit. I mean, this is a vetting system that they've put in place
And
somehow.
it's a stupid way to vet if that's what they're doing.
Speaking personally, I feel kind of insulted by it because it's implying that because I know the author, I'm unable to make a subjective... wrong word. I'm unable to English at. I'm unable to make draw an objective opinion about my friend's book. If I give a friend 5 stars and it says, OMG, I love it, exclamation points across the board, then yeah, perhaps that's not a valuable review and I just put it up there to be nice. But if I did honestly want to give this book 5 stars and I wrote a thoughtful review about it, that I wanted to help my other readers be drawn to this book, and then it gets kicked off just because I happen to be friends with them on Facebook and Twitter, it feels like my opinion is now invalid, which isn't true. My opinion might have helped someone buy that book. If my review said, if you like Little House on the Prairie in Space, come read this, someone's looking for that. I read the book, I can point them that direction.
It also doesn't give readers enough credit, because something that I do on Amazon is I don't just look at the great reviews or the terrible reviews. I look to see what's in them. And I'll make my decision based on what the overarching theme seems to be, and whether in the bad reviews or good reviews something was mentioned that I find particularly important about whatever I'm reading or buying. So it does a disservice to everybody on that in that equation.
Well, 2 reviews. This whole system of categorizing reviews, I think, passes over the fact that on some level I don't really mind if somebody just gives me 5 stars and goes, I love that book. Is it a review? It's probably a friend of mine going, hey, here you go. But to be honest, I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's invalid. I mean, to be honest, if you had nothing but 5-star reviews of people going, this is awesome, that would say something. I don't know. I think getting into the different content of review is kind of counterintuitive to the whole process.
I was just thinking Amazon's new feature definitely encourages catfishing.
Yeah.
Catfishing? What's that? I've never heard that term.
Really?
MTV. No.
There's actually a movie called Catfishing, but it's basically a term for pretending to be someone else online.
Or pretending to be someone else remotely,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a certain purpose in mind for
Usually
catfishing?
romantic in nature.
Yeah,
You're going to
Casual
have a
encounters.
false relationship.
Not necessarily.
No. Have a false relationship with somebody online. So you know this boy, but you can't talk to this boy in real life, so you create a fake person. You use all these pictures from this other person that he'll be like, ooh, you talk to them, and then you become that person online, and then, 2 years goes by, MTV comes by, and puts you guys together, and then it's like, oh, wait, you're not the person I've been talking to for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Hollywood movie plot or the plot of a fanfic that I should be writing.
They've made the movie.
Catfish on MTV with
Oh.
Neve. It's actually a funny show sometimes.
When
Other
you're
times
not
it's
crying.
Yeah. Other times it's not a good show.
Is this like the online version of She's the Man? Or like 12
Kind of.
Night kind of stuff?
I
Or
don't
Yeah.
know.
No, Bergerac.
A little less
Yentl.
intense.
Alright.
No, there are, sometimes it's fraud, but sometimes it's innocent, sometimes it's fraud, sometimes it's somewhere in the middle.
I dare say it's never quite innocent.
Yeah.
Well, another thing about
Still
Sometimes
Right.
it's just done for
Creepy.
privacy.
about catfishing and this policy is it almost punishes authors who write under their real name and not a pen name, because that would mean that everyone who's friends with me under my real name then also is subjected to potentially this Amazon policy, as opposed to if somebody writes under a pen name, it might be harder to track who their real life friends are.
I think you brought up a good point about real life and figuring out who people's friends are based on, who we are on social media. But I do think that this Amazon policy is not something we agree with. I also think it kind of gets away from the topic at hand, which is what these sites do for writers, do for authors, and do for readers. So we don't like the policy because it basically undercuts things that these sites have been doing for writers and readers. So what are some of those things?
Very valuable things that the sites can do that is hard for other sites to do. Because Amazon gets so much traffic, and Goodreads gets so much traffic from readers, therefore they take the reviews and the star rankings and the general impression from the rest of the reader body seriously when they're looking for something to read or buy.
It used to be you would read the paper, and there would be a section of it that was devoted to books that would have book reviews where somebody at the paper read the book, reviewed it for you, and put it out there. And if you could get that done, instant sales, the light shines, suddenly books fly off shelves, and, selling books was easy. That used to be the way. Now every paper in America pretty much has gone the wayside and disappeared. Here in St. Louis, we actually are one of the few that still has an active book page. Thank you, Jane Henderson. Hope you live forever. But the point is that, that used to be the way. The new way is Amazon and Goodreads. Their star system, this review system, all of it is exactly what focuses readers now on your book. So you can be the top 100th YA space drama that's, takes place here, and, that's an actual category on, Amazon, and you can find what you need, and then even better is the little thing at the bottom that people who read this also bought this. And that really sells books today.
I was going to say another thing going off of that that's so great about the ability to review books on Amazon and Goodreads is it makes reviewing so much more accessible. And I think for a whole larger kind of subsect of people, because I know for me, there are very few professional reviewers who I agree with a lot of the time. Whereas this way, like if I have a friend who I know that I respect their taste and we have similar taste in books, then I'm going to read their reviews, and I'm more likely to pick up a book if somebody who I know I share a taste with happens to recommend it. And I think that because it's now so accessible for anyone to review a book, it's a lot easier to find books based on your interests.
Yeah, I will say that I get I probably check out 3 books from the library at least for every 1 book I buy. I do end up buying a lot of books once I look around like, oh, wait, I thought I got all my books from the library. No, that's not true. But point is, I do get a lot of books from the library. But if I want to browse and find out what's coming out, I don't go to my library's website. My library's website, in order to find a book, I have to know what I'm looking for. I can't browse that website. No, if I want to browse, I go to either Amazon or Barnes & Noble's website.
Oh, I was just trying to think of when I first found Goodreads. It was a revelation for me, because I have a lot of books, and I had gotten to the point where in reading ebooks, I wouldn't remember what I'd read and what I hadn't unless I started reading it again. And Goodreads was amazing because I could catalog all the books that I had and mark down the ones that I had read, and it helped me keep track of things, so I spent less time going back and, rereading things and being like, oh, right, I remember this one. So I could mark what I liked and see patterns in what I liked. And I could also see patterns in reviewers and start following or friending reviewers who seem to have a viewpoint close to my own. So what they liked, I would then find in my updates, because Goodreads has an updates. It'll tell you what your friends are currently reading, what's being recommended, and it'll tell you, like, if you've joined a Goodreads group for people of like interests, what's going on in that group that's just gone up. So all of those things helped me to really hone in on the type of books that I liked, helped me to find new books and new authors that I never would have found otherwise. And it's been great. It added a community aspect to reading that I don't necessarily get all the time. It added the internet to book reading. Yeah, it was great.
You said something that I think it's very important to point out. Books are art. Which is not what you said, but what you said is you follow people that have interests like you. Yeah. A book could be a masterpiece. A book author could have won the Nobel Prize for Literature, but you could hate the book. It could be a beautifully written book, but you personally hate it. So the stars don't necessarily reflect the quality of the work. They reflect how well you like it.
We say the Academy.
Yeah.
Another great feature of Goodreads that I've only discovered in the last couple of months is the list feature. And that is because you can make a list of just about anything. And what a list is let's say I want to read some dystopian vampire fantasy. So I might make a list that says best dystopian vampire fantasy, and I might add a couple books on there. Then other people can also add books to that list. They can vote on books that they think on that list, so then essentially the book with the most votes moves to the top of the list, and so on. And it's a really good way to find, I've seen some, it's novels with diverse protagonists, novels with the show sex-positive female characters, certain lists that I can go to that are very specific. You can make it as specific as you want. Other people will find it with the same taste, and they'll add books to the list. So I think that's a really cool feature, too.
I need to vote on more of those and go through more of those because they are amazing. I voted on a few and seen all sorts of books I have no idea about. So for those books, I'm not sure if I should... How to vote on this, because I know this one and this one and this one. There's 10 other, 15 other, 20 other books on the list. So this one's my best, but if I read this one, maybe I'll think differently.
Can you change your ratings later?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good way to discover new books, too, on that list. Again, if it's a subject that you like, you can discover what other people have put on the list.
Here's a question. If you're writing a book and trying to find titles, create that list. Try
comp titles.
Yeah. Find your comp titles that way. Crowdsource the problem.
The other thing about Goodreads that I mentioned is groups. There are groups. And a group is basically just people who have joined this one little group based on interest X or interest Y. So I'm part of an MM romance group on Goodreads. It's gay romance. There is a sister group to that one that's YA gay romance. So not erotic content for that one. And the groups have events, have giveaways, all sorts of things that'll help get more books into your hands. Goodreads also has a system, a raffle for books that are coming out. So I've won a book before that was coming out. It tries to get author-reader relationships going, too, by doing author chats that'll notify you about if you like that author or book by them.
Sounds like a good way to network as an author trying to sell your book.
Has newsletters, all sorts of things. Just very helpful.
Yeah, we should probably mention the Goodreads giveaways, just as a thing, because it is a thing, and it is probably one of the best marketing tools you can use. I should probably do them. My Goodreads page is really, really pathetic. I have not spent the last 200 some odd days reading that book. So
I have a list of started and never finished. Some of which I have finished, but some of which I'll probably never finish.
yes.
I have for a while I wasn't online so much. The Goodreads app is very helpful because now I can just immediately put in what I just read and what I thought about it. Mm-hmm. But I was keeping it in a notebook for like a year, all the books I was reading and the ratings. I've never gotten back to Goodreads to like update all those things. So there's like a year of my reading history that's missing.
Yes.
And it sometimes messes with me, but still, like, it's been so helpful. I can just check my Kindle and then check my Goodreads and be like, oh yeah, I read this one. I can remove it.
Here's a question. It sounds like there's two things going on here if you're an author. Mm-hmm. Namely, if you are writing what you like to read, no problem. There's no conflict there. But what if, say, you write children's books, and you have more diverse... You might love children's books, but you also have more diverse interests. Is there ways to...
You can have a personal page and an author
Yeah,
page.
you set up a personal page and an author page.
Yeah.
My author page has one book on it. And that's Dog Bark. That's my one book. And it's...
But as an author, can you make lists and do, like, similar books and say, like, I like these children's books and those, or...
There's a whole section where you can do your favorite books and, just like your personal page.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't really populated mine.
You can merge your author with your personal page because something that does happen is someone will put your book up on Goodreads. So there will be an author there already. And just, if you are that author, you set it up so that, yes, that is me. And then you can sign in that way.
Which is what I did.
I did that too, but now I kind of regret it because I'm like, that's more public persona me. I still like having my kind of anonymous me going on, being able to say what I read and
That's
not feeling
catfish.
like that
Yeah.
reflects.
No,
No.
it didn't mean actually anonymous.
No. Like, it's my online persona that is me and has always been me. And it's just weird having them merged with an author public me. It feels
No, it's something that you
weird,
should
like,
definitely consider,
is
not
this-
having the two
is this
together.
the book
Another
that
reason for
Kaseka and Vita
non-deplume?
would have read,
Yes, exactly.
I don't know.
So
She reads kids' books and writes erotica. What's wrong with this person? So, like, there's a kind of disconnect because
That's
as
what
you
I was
said,
talking about,
Like,
yeah.
the things that I read and the things that I write aren't always overtly understandable.
And there's nothing wrong with having a professional page and a private page.
Yeah.
so
Multiple private pages where you're getting into the weirdness.
So we've spoken about Amazon in brief and Goodreads.
BNN now?
We can. I was gonna say, what does they're very similar sites because they're both online, both online things that help recommend books. What would be the strengths and weakness of each in comparing? And then when you're looking at that,
is its size.
Is its size?
Everyone goes there. If you're going to buy a pillow or clothes or a lightsaber or
A book.
you're going to do it on Amazon. So
And if
people
you're-
are already there.
And if you're buying through Amazon, you're not necessarily buying from Amazon. They could just be the distributor of someone else's goods.
But most of the time when you're dealing with books, especially if you're dealing with ebooks and stuff like that, Amazon is the juggernaut. I mean, they do hold like 99% of the business.
Might be a bit less, 98.
It's up there. But yeah.
Especially for like textbooks.
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like that.
Only problem is when they realize that and then try to do things that make it bad for authors, which things have happened like that in the past. So on the one hand,
Yeah,
it's
but they're a
great.
great big target.
On the one hand, it's great, but on the other hand, it does put authors at a disadvantage if Amazon
Yeah.
wants to do something that
the
is
whole
not good for them.
iNetwork sitting over here. But for now, kind of keeps Amazon in check, even though they fight. And Apple just lost to Amazon in a big court fight, but
What were they fighting over?
Price fixing.
Price fixing on ebooks.
But the iSite lost the court case, but they actually won the war. Ebooks are the price that Apple want. Basically, ebook prices came way up, which was Apple's goal. It cost them the court case because they didn't do it in a legal way according to the court, but their ultimate goal was achieved. We were willing to pay for an ebook that is like 80% of the price of the actual paper book.
Oh.
And when they first came out, we weren't willing to do that.
I'm still not willing to do that.
I'm not either.
See, and Amazon has the publishing side, so it's constantly fed this huge trough of books that just boom right onto Amazon. So there's constant new content, which Barnes & Noble and Goodreads, well, Goodreads is a little different, but...
Goodreads isn't directly selling stuff.
Yeah, but Goodreads isn't retail the way Barnes & Noble and Amazon are.
Yeah. Now, another thing that should be on the list, I guess, that isn't, is Apple's version, iBooks, which is, like you said, over to one side.
So wait, what is iBooks exactly? Because I haven't used that much.
It's the Apple version.
Yes.
It's the Apple version of Amazon's online stuff.
PDFs.
All right.
Actually, no, it's not just PDFs.
Well, it had mostly it.
It's its own
on my
proprietary,
iPad, I have it, and it can only open PDFs on iBooks mine, but it could be other ones too.
So is
I
it
don't know.
strictly for ebooks?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Apple doesn't deal in hard things.
Actually, they do deal in hard things. It's called their hardware. They just don't deal in paper.
Yes.
Paper is so last century.
But I bought iBooks, or I bought Apple's books because I got gift certificates, for the Apple Store, and that's one of the things you can buy. And they have this whole thing. It's the equivalent of, for instance, there's Android apps, and then there's Apple apps. Come on, this is like VCR and Betamax, and they're still duking it out.
No one's going to win this war.
No.
Because that would be a monopoly.
There won't be one system.
I think someone might win the war when the next thing comes out and makes both obsolete.
Ha!
I would like to point out, because you brought up iBooks and that was not actually in the title, there are other retail stores, other retail sites, independent, small press, all sorts of sites. Some of which I absolutely adore, and they will do things like send out newsletters, give discounts on books and things, all sorts of stuff.
I've become quite the fan of thriftbooks.com.
There you go. Well, since we're doing that, I'm going to throw out the independents. The independent bookstores, which are the little mom and pop shops that are in every city. Go, love them, embrace them. And the beauty part is, and this is the fun one, so the fear was Amazon was going to shut down all the independents, and the reality is now people shop on Amazon because they have the best search features, and you can go through, and then they go into the indie bookstore and buy there.
Yeah, you know
Because
what?
it's faster shipping when you can pick it up off the shelf and take it home.
Wait,
They're supporting local communities and all that kind of fun
You know
stuff.
what Amazon killed? Borders.
So wait,
Yes.
Amazon, people use Amazon to search a book and then go to the indie bookstore, order it that way.
No,
and
buy
right there.
it.
Buy it right there.
Get it off
Because
the
usually
shelf
they're carrying it.
for big books.
for big books.
Yeah,
So
well,
I was thinking
obviously, if you're
order.
buying a self-published novel from some guy who lives in Seattle, you're probably going to have to order that.
Yeah.
But if you're getting the new Stephen King novel, likelihood is high that you can walk into your local bookseller and pick it up.
You know what else I do? I go to Amazon, find the book, then go into my library and check it out.
That was the thing I was going to bring up, actually, because I do the same thing. I'll find a book on Amazon, see if the library has it in there. So, again, it's the search function of Goodreads or of Amazon or
Yeah.
Barnes & Noble.
It's become the
being
new
used.
browsing through the store.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you know what else Amazon is great at? And I think Barnes & Noble is good at this too. When the next book is coming out. I can't tell that from the library site, but when is the next book by the author I want? When is the next release date? I can look up and see, just look, what's the most recently published. And the pre-orders are usually there first.
Yeah, you can actually go on right now and pre-order Iron Zulu. Not that that's a plug or anything.
Oh, my goodness. Do you have an author page on Amazon?
I kind of do. I need to update it.
I keep forgetting to actually go on Amazon, find mine, and do something with it.
Yeah, I made mine like when my book first came out, like 6 months ago, less than that, 4 months ago, and I don't think I've been on it since.
So-
I was a little confused.
What do you do with the author page exactly? Because it sounds like it would be like on Amazon and on Goodreads.
It's
a good
essentially
way of-
telling Amazon you wrote all these books. And if anyone else has your name, they're going to file it up and go, hey, did you write these books? And you're going to be like, no.
So
It might
it's a
be
way
more
of
important
keeping...
with people with common names.
It's just a page to, like, you go to the Iron Horseman site on Amazon right now, and you'll see it, and there you can buy the ebook or the print book by pushing a button. You can see the cover. And then right up at the top, and it's underlined, and it's a link, it'll say author's page or something like that. And you click on that, and it takes you to another page on Amazon that has my photo and my bio and a few other things like that, most of which come from the distributor and, my publisher. It's not like I've inputted all that information, and then I can update it and put my own stuff and stuff like that.
So it's a good idea to keep things like that author page on Amazon and on Goodreads updated.
Oh,
a
you
little
really
bit?
should, yes.
Okay, so
Even though we've all confessed.
Exactly.
I guess I'm gonna have to go do that now. Oops.
And in that way, see, it'd be beautiful if you go search out Stephen King. You're like, oh, I'm looking for that novel that he wrote that time. And you click on
The one
it.
about the aliens?
Exactly. I think it was scary. So then you go to his author page, and all his books will be there, and you can kind of look through those. And then when you find it, you can click on that. It takes you directly to the page where you can then buy the book. So Amazon is super linked up so that it's constantly cross-referencing itself and going back through itself so that you can eventually buy a book.
So with all this astounding future convenience, what sort of benefit does Barnes & Noble still carry, in addition to having an online store that people would go to Amazon before they thought of visiting? They still have brick-and-mortar stores and are still standing on their own feet, I assume.
Old school guys like me still like wandering around shelves, dusty smell of books coming off and giving you that nice...
And you can't buy a coffee or there and
Exactly.
sit down in the cafe. Barnes and Nobles are becoming coffee shops where you can buy books.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
They also have the giant, oversized,
Comfy chairs.
No, the coffee table books that are like 80% off or something like that. Mm-hmm. Those are hard to browse online. They're real easy to browse right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are some books
That's
that
like
you
half
can't
my
tell
library.
if you want them just by looking at the online description.
Well, it's much better than BAM. They don't give you any chairs, and if you just sit on the floor reading a book, you'll get bothered every 5 minutes asking if you're going to buy that.
What's BAM?
Books a Million.
Books a
Do
Million.
you guys have it here?
Yes.
No, it's
Okay.
we have one.
No, we have a couple.
Do we?
Yeah, there's one out at, I can't remember the name of that mall.
I know there's a Chesterfield Mall one,
But
right?
they don't like it when you
No,
read in the
that's
store
different.
usually.
It's
Well, the one in
B-Stock.
Concord,
No.
New Hampshire, they don't.
That
No, we have a
probably has
couple.
to
We
do
don't
with
have
the
a lot.
store
We have a
manager.
couple.
Yeah.
Most of them are out.
Yeah, they're on the fringes. But they're very popular in other towns.
And we've got half-price books now.
We do. I was just there earlier today because they have 50% off coupon.
Why would you say that?
I didn't find what I wanted, but Olivia bought the rest. My younger sister bought the rest of Scrubs, so it was a good trip.
See, I would go there and not find what I wanted and still come out with something.
The good news is that all the Skullduggery Pleasant books were purchased and none were on the shelf. I always give
my goodness.
Derek Landy a little across the ocean high five when I see that has happened.
But see, things like that make brick and mortar stores like Barnes & Noble and indie bookstores really just nice to be in. I love to be in a place surrounded by books that could potentially go home with me that I can look through and explore. Because seeing a book online is one experience, but it's a wholly different experience to be surrounded by books and just be able to pull something off the shelf, look at it, put it back, look at all the things around it, and see kind of what's popular because it's on the shelf right now.
What the big displays are.
The other nice thing is, and this goes for all booksellers, Barnes & Noble included, the indies is most particularly, is that they're booksellers most of them are book lovers. So they've read more books than I'm probably going to this year. And probably a more eclectic mix than I'm going to read this year. So they have that ability to recommend books out of the air and just go, hey, this book is awesome. You like this book is awesome too. And, if you make friends with these people, then they will hawk your book too. So tip for the writers out there. But the best part is you can walk in, you can say, hey, I just read this. Do you know of something similar? And more than likely they're going to have something they can tell you, which is awesome.
Something I like that Barnes & Noble does is on the shelves under certain books will be a recommendation from somebody who's read it, who's on staff,
Yep.
like staff picks.
Staff picks.
And I love that. And I also heard that people who work at bookstores like that can take a book home, read it, and then bring it back. I'm not sure if it's true for Barnes & Noble, but I know it's true for some. Mm-hmm. So that enables you to read all sorts of things and then to recommend things that are in the store on the shelves.
A lot of bookstores, including Barnes & Noble, the indies as well, though, will get ARCs, which are advanced reader copies. So often those will get handed out, and then you can take it and you can keep it or, bring it back if you need to.
Yeah, advanced readers' copies can't be sold.
Yeah, they can't be sold, so they're just for the booksellers to read. But, and that's kind of a wonderful marketing tool. You can send them out to all these bookstores and, get the actual book into the hands and get it read by somebody who then is going to recommend it when a customer comes in and is like, hey, I'm looking for something like this.
So it sounds like the strengths of Amazon and Goodreads are the kind of democratic crowd, not crowdsourcing, but
Part
like
of it is.
crowd
reviewing.
There we go. Thank you. Crowd reviewing and finding books that way that may not appear in your local bookstore, or that are in sections you wouldn't have suspected that something you like is. Because with the advent of urban fantasy, paranormal investigation being huge, there are a bunch of books that would be on the sci-fi fantasy shelves that are now out in mystery and wherever they're cataloged now that wouldn't have been there 10 years ago. They would have been in the sci-fi fantasy section, which is why I can't find certain things that I would have been able to find before.
My library put Charlene Harris in the mystery section, which is fine for some of her books, but Suki Stackhouse in the mystery section.
I was thinking about her, and I was thinking about Laurel K. Hamilton's Anita Blake series. So you can't necessarily find things anymore on the brick and mortar shelves in the way that you can online, where it's fast, you know.
And they can't possibly store every book either.
And there's so much
But they
genre
can order
mixing.
it, so always go in and order from your local store.
And there's so much genre mixing now too that, you know, those books that we just mentioned, both series will fit in both those places. It's just what people are more likely to go to first that dictates what shelves they end up on.
Yeah, and on Amazon they can be in both places.
And in Barnes & Noble and other brick and mortar stores, you get the experience, the atmosphere of being in a bookstore. You get the help from people who may have read the book, the person-to-person interaction. You may get the coffee shop experience and the bargain books that you wouldn't have necessarily been looking for at all online because they're not in the sections that you were going in.
They were the best places to meet people.
And you do meet cool people in bookstores.
And I just mean meet them, and pick them up. I mean, like, you know, hey, everybody meet at Barnes & Noble's Cafe.
I was going to say, I haven't picked up any dates at Barnes & Noble yet.
Who said dates? No.
Well, that was what it sounded like when he's like, it's a great place to meet people. And then he clarified, and it was a joke, and it fell flat on its face.
St. Louis Writers Guild.
It was funny.
St. Louis Writers Guild used to meet in a Barnes & Noble for a while.
We met at Borders even before that.
No, actually, Barnes Noble came first.
Then Borders, then...
Yeah.
We would descend upon the store, a mass of readers and writers.
It was a nice Borders.
I miss Borders. I still have my Borders keyring. I refuse to take it off. My rewards card.
How nostalgic.
When I scan books,
Borders was awesome.
When I scan books into Goodreads, because you can scan books on the Goodreads app into your library, which I love. I had some with Borders tags covering the barcode, and I wouldn't take them off. I was just like, no Borders, you were my friend.
It's proof that we're all writers and book lovers if we're getting teary-eyed over Borders.
But we get sentimental about brick and mortar stores in a way that I won't necessarily be about Amazon because I don't have a personal relationship with the store itself.
What I miss is the Library Limited.
And minion on it.
But I miss the Library Limited bookstore. And you won't know what that is, Meredith, because it was gone well before you came to St. Louis.
It was amazing.
It was my first independent bookstore.
It was a huge independent bookstore that became a Borders or Barnes & Noble's. Anyway, it's no longer there anymore.
It became a giant corporate office tower.
Yeah.
It had like a play area in it too. That's something that I like that libraries are doing now. Like there are kids areas, play areas. Section. And I'm not sure if bookstores are doing that so much, but it seems like
a few of them are. They have big kids sections.
By the way, part of the reason we love giant 2-story bookstore that was a former department store that had been turned into a library or into a bookstore, and it had a huge circular staircase that led up to the second floor. Anyway, I could go on and on.
It was an interesting architecture building too. Also,
yeah, with an art gallery in between the floors.
It was magic.
Yes.
It was magic.
I went into a magic bookstore in Colorado. It was across from a magic comic book store across the way, like not even a street, just like a path, a sidewalk. And yeah, that's one of the strengths about bookstores is you get to have some personality in them.
They all have personality. I love them. It's my favorite thing to do when I'm on vacation is go to bookstores.
Yeah.
And
so we could sit here and talk all day about bookstores across the country.
And as Jen was asking us to find strengths and weaknesses, that's a weakness, I suppose, for Amazon and Goodreads that is a strength for things like Barnes & Noble. Like, we'll talk about all the search functions for Amazon and Goodreads that Barnes & Noble doesn't necessarily have, and it's not the first place you go to do those search functions that you can do on its site. But it will always have a place for me to sit down on a really cushy chair, and I can't do that at Goodreads, even though it feels amazing to be on that site.
But, Barnes & Noble is a big bookstore and bookstore chain, not every, Barnes and Noble's big, but a lot of the independent bookstores are much more specialized.
Yes.
You can't go into an independent bookstore and expect they have everything,
Mm-hmm.
but they might, they tend to dig deep instead of digging wide and have their own little specialties. There is a bookstore that's still open, but I can't remember the name. It's on Euclid, and they specialize in
Left
mysteries. What?
No, not Left Bank. What is this one?
Yeah, this is Left Bank is also an independent one on Euclid. It's a little bit down from there. Everything in there is mysteries.
Yeah, and then they're unfortunately going to close down.
Oh, yeah.
Now that you bring that up,
They were in the Post-Dispatch.
there was where is it? Minneapolis? Uncle Ben and Uncle Hugo for Ben Bova and Victor Hugo. There we go. It's like, why am I blanking on this name? They're
Because
Like,
there's
this
a
is
first
a
name and
really
a last
important
name.
name.
they're a set of bookstores that are connected that specialize. They're mysteries and sci-fi fantasy.
Okay.
And it's very awesome going in there. And that's something that you don't get online either. Now I'm being all happy about bookstores, guys. Thanks.
Okay, then real quick, I got to throw out two more.
Mhm.
Two of my favorites. One is Kramer's in D.C., and then you're talking about Specialized Bridge Street Books, which is just down Pennsylvania Avenue a bit. It actually has the tiniest YA section I've ever seen, but the largest political and nonfiction section I have ever seen. It was a very amusing bookstore. Fun,
So
fun
you're
guys to
telling
talk
me
to.
that the politics and nonfiction section slowly consumed the YA section
Pretty much it
until
looked that way.
there was nothing left.
I would say their YA section was about a foot wide. It went floor to ceiling. It was very amusing.
There's a small, I think it's a Barnes & Noble bookstore on WashU's main campus. And again, that's not where you buy textbooks. So they don't sell textbooks. But it's sort of like, it has the philosophy of a Barnes & Noble's, but it's small like an independent bookstore because it just doesn't have the square footage.
So, the strengths of Amazon and Goodreads, the ability to find anything, basically, are wonderful. But then, in cases like what we began with, where Amazon does something that affects how the selling process for writers, for books, works, what do you do in those cases when the place that has everything suddenly stops functioning in a way that is conducive?
Unfortunately, I think the answer is you cope with it. Because if that's where all the readers go to get books,
Oh, you could
then you gotta
protest
have
it.
you're gonna have to keep using it, because you can't convince the entire world to go to some other site just because of internal politics that the reader otherwise wouldn't know about.
Exactly. Readers don't care. They're going to go to where they love to get their books from, and that's going to be where they get their books. To be honest, I mean, look at Hachette and Amazon, their whole fight that they had, These fights will come up, and I don't think they're really something for the average writer to worry about. It's more on an industry level. If you get to play up on that level, awesome. Step up to the plate. Let your voice be heard. But, I have a small press book that, is going to sell X number of copies or whatever. No one really cares. And I know that. And I can join in the fight, and I can make myself vocal and go out there and really let my voice be heard. But the reality is, I hold no sway when compared to the juggernaut authors whom, this might really affect. But, one could argue that the newest Amazon argument is about kind of eliminating some of the smaller authors' ability to gather up reviews. Because I'm more likely to ask all my friends to review my book than, or at least people I know online, than say, James Patterson, who is going to get hundreds of reviews without blinking an eye. Or having to actually say, will you review my book? I mean, he probably hasn't said that in 20 plus years.
Probably doesn't even notice when they come out.
Yeah, they hit the mark. He's like, what? Oh, there are reviews on my book? Good to know. So on certain levels, Amazon and these juggernauts, they play in a world that we only get to go onto Facebook and gripe about. But, the reality is that it's something we all have to learn to play with, and we can be vocal about it when it's a horrible idea. And so far, majority has come to rule on most subjects. And with a lot of it favoring the authors. Now, this situation's a little different, but a lot of the times, majority has won. The majority opinion has won. So we can hope in that, and then just be vocal on Facebook if not.
I was going to bring up self-pubbers because you've just done that, and it made me realize one of the things that was great about Amazon for self-pubbers was the ability to publish your own work through their Kindle system.
Yes.
So
KDP, for those of you who don't know it, which is Kindle Direct Publishing, it is a wonderful pathway to publishing. It is very step by step. It lays it all out for you, what you need to do. Here's what you need to do. Here are avenues to do what you need to do. KDP can be a wonderful thing. And then the other nice thing that Amazon offers is the ability for price adjustments, to join the different groups, so you can take your book and make it free for a couple of days and put it into that system and see if you can, then you can rise to the top and be the, most downloaded book that day. That's something you can do, and it's something that has really allowed self-publishing to kind of become the juggernaut that it is what the resources Amazon put forward to self-publishing authors. And it's been a really, as kind of a traditionally published guy, I can't play some of those games. I can't just make my book free. Mm-hmm. For instance, I can't just do that. But for the authors who can, that can be an excellent marketing tool. Yeah, sure, you gave away X number of books, but that's X number of books people read. They tell their friends, maybe they review it. So there's that aspect to it that has really allowed self-publishing, specifically, to thrive in Amazon.
I was going to bring up the whole democracy kind of thing. And, one of the things about that is that anyone can now publish a book. And it means that a lot of people are given voices that didn't necessarily have one, and they're given voices on a potentially huge scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the good thing, everyone can publish a book. The bad thing, everyone can publish a book. There are no gatekeepers, which means that a lot of books that really need editing get published.
Yeah, but see, I'm a huge fan of that, because to be honest, publishers can't publish every book. Mm-hmm. Even the good ones. Even the
that's the good side of it.
Even the crap that's really good, but it's still not quite going to be a New York Times bestseller, has merit and should be able to come out. And some of those books are really fun to read. So I love that there's that avenue that we can put these books out.
I'm not sure. I think this was a self-pub originally, but Go the F to Sleep got huge. And
we could talk about that all day, like Hugh Howey and Amanda Hawking and all these people.
Samuel L. Jackson did the audiobook. Sorry, go on.
No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that you can take a book that probably would not have been picked up by a mainstream publisher, and it becomes huge because there's a love for it out there.
And then the big publishers will want it.
Exactly.
And so you can use self-publishing on sites like Amazon to gain a platform through which to go into the big leagues, I guess.
If you can sell more than 10,000 books, people will pay attention.
Is this where Patrick the Spider is going to end up?
If Patrick the Spider gets off the ground someday, perhaps. He's currently a landlocked spider. But he's, I don't know, it's got its promise. It's trying to work his way through the traditional system at the moment. And that's going to have as much success as it's going to have. And if it doesn't have as much success as we would like, then he may end up being the next Go the F to Sleep.
Patrick the Spider is the book that Jennifer Stolzer is writing with her cousin Matt, who is not here.
Who's
Matt
not present.
Yeah.
But if anyone remembers Matt, they remember Patrick.
When you think of me, you will think of Patrick the Spider.
And
I don't know if you wanted that association, but it's there too.
Think of Oedipus.
I think he'd be fine. He'd be fine with that.
I think so too.
Oh my goodness. Oedipus killed his father, married his mother. Matt
Wrote
made
Patrick the
matricide
Spider.
thing for children. Oh my goodness. Sorry, everyone. We're just having fun.
Yeah, we just rabbit trailed just a little bit.
We did.
So, Amazon.
Oh, I'd just like
Goodreads,
to
Barnes
point
and
out,
Noble.
Apple Publishing or whatever they call that has the self-publishing tools too. I think because they did it one time.
They did it one time
I
because they
haven't
want to
used
make
it.
sure that everyone who's addicted to their Kool-Aid stays on their Kool-Aid.
Yes.
Well, there are a bunch. KDP is hardly the only one. There's Lulu. There's Create Space, which is also
Which
part
is
of
Amazon,
Which
yeah.
is Amazon. Amazon's gobbled up a lot, but there are still many others. There's Smashwords, Scribd, other places that will allow you to pump books out.
I was going to bring up small presses again, because just as there are small indie bookstores, there are small press websites where you can get books directly from the publisher. And I very much like those, and a lot of those are now hooked into Amazon too, so you can get books there or at the press. So that's another way that small presses are able to give people who are not published by big publishing companies some of the same avenues to reach a mass audience.
It's not even the little guys anymore. Big guys like Harper and some of the others are now direct selling from their websites. Because they realized, why am I having all these middlemen when I could just do it myself? So that's a whole new model that's being kind of explored in New York.
So we might not only have Amazon soon?
Yeah. Some of these are, kind of going in direct competition with Amazon due to the whole Hachette contract issues that have been going on.
All right, explain that, please, because it's the second time you've mentioned it.
All right.
And Hachette is spelled hatchet. Okay,
Yes,
I just want
hatchet.
everyone to know, because that's why I didn't recognize it at first, and I was like,
So it's a bunch of them. Hachette was the first of the big publishers that had to renegotiate with Amazon on royalties. Amazon wanted this number. The publisher said, we don't want to give you that number. We can't afford to give you that number. We want to give you this number. And the two of them fought like cats and dogs. And then they went to court over it. And there were all these weird negotiations. And then Colbert got involved.
Because he's an author.
Stephen
Because,
Colbert.
he was Stephen Colbert. Awesome dude.
Yeah, he didn't get involved just because he had a TV show.
No.
He got involved because he had a book.
He had a book out. He has many books out, we should say. Several of them are actually very good.
and a vocal album.
Yes. Yes, and a vocal album. And I guarantee you he'll have more, because Jimmy Fallon's putting out books left and right, so he's going to as well. But yeah, so they had a whole fight. Hachette agreed in the end, you know what, we really want our books to be able to be sold on Amazon, because Amazon ripped every Hachette book in a grand gesture, ripped every Hachette book off its site, and said, now what you going to do? And they came back and said, well, we're going to sell directly from our own site. We're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And Amazon went, okay, what are you going to do, really? And they came back and signed the agreement and everything like that. And then it was Penguin next, and Penguin tried to fight them. And then they agreed, and pretty much everyone's going to agree to it in the end. Because it's not, the terms, it's just big, giant corporations fighting over numbers. That's all that this is. Which is why I say it's something that for writers, we pay attention to, we need to pay attention to, we need to know about, but it is giant corporations fighting it out, so...
That's kind of something I was worried about when we mentioned that Amazon is the place everybody goes to now to get things that they may not be able to get locally. Because if Amazon has that much power over things, they can rip all the books off their metaphorical shelves. You can't find them. You can't get them anymore. Because Amazon has chosen not to see them. So you are then unable to see things that you may or may not even realize are there or be looking for.
Not only that, but all of the reviews and recommendations that those books would have been getting that would have made a difference along the line in the future, they are now not receiving on Amazon, and therefore not reaching the radars that they were previously reaching for readers.
I was, Malcolm Gladwell, I think, had a book that this happened to with Hachette, Hatchet, and
It's French.
It came out.
Well, that's why.
It came out, and Amazon was in the middle of this fight, and so all the publicity that he would have normally had, and the books that definitely would have been sold when it came out, all those numbers, all those sales were gone, and so his book didn't do as well as I'm sure many other books didn't, because the main retailer that everybody goes to was having a hissy fit. And I also remember hearing about Amazon taking books off of people's Kindles because they didn't have the right to sell it in the first place. So when you get a book on your Kindle, when you get an Amazon ebook, you're buying the rights to read it on that particular device, but you don't actually have the rights to own the book in the way that you would with a paper copy, which you can lend out and bring back.
All the
whole
online
DRM
sources,
argument.
You don't own anything anymore.
So things like that give me pause and make me back up things extensively and not let Amazon onto my Kindle anymore. But yeah, it's a great thing when you can find everything on Amazon, but it's a bad thing when you expect to find everything on Amazon and it's not letting you.
Amazon is a fantastic tool. We just have to be wary when it decides to throw its weight around, because we've given it a lot of power. as a human community.
I
The
really
world
want
has given
drones.
it a lot of power.
I really want drones dropping off my books.
And with whether they're responsible with their power or not is out of our hands. It's up to them if they want to use the power they have over us as writers and readers for their personal gain and our ruination. Then that's what they're going to do.
I think the court of public opinion that Brad mentioned earlier swayed some things with Amazon is really important to remember, though. We as readers and writers do have power. I remember there was a point when PayPal, which is a system that like everybody uses to pay for things online, to the point where it's now at some retail stores on their pin pads.
Yep.
PayPal, at one point a few years ago, decided it was not going to be used to sell anything that may have any erotic content whatsoever.
Ah.
So anyone who has written a book with a sex scene in it now can't have that book purchased through PayPal. And that was a site that all these websites and small presses were using to publish their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who have sex scenes in their books, not just erotica writers, like Rabbit Run, classic book by John Updike, sex scene. Is that now something that PayPal won't be used to pay for?
Catcher in the Rye.
There was enough of a
Sex and
stink.
Catcher in the Rye?
There was a sex scene. Sex
I don't
is something
remember
different.
that. I haven't read that since like high
So
school.
there was enough of a stink put up by people who were like, you can't police the content that I'm purchasing. That is not your job.
Yeah.
That they dropped that rule. They dropped it in a matter of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is important for readers, writers, authors, everything, to speak up when things like this happen that we don't agree with. Because the court of public opinion is much more powerful than, a lawsuit sometimes. It just says you're going to lose money because we're withdrawing support.
You attack their wallet, it'll get straight to their heart.
It looks like it's almost time for us to shut ourselves down. Any last thoughts about Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, everything?
I love you all because you sell my books.
Yeah, I will say that Amazon Now is today's Sears Robot catalog, but remember, who under the age of 30 actually knows what Sears Robot catalog was? Or
I will give you that, yes. And one day Amazon will be replaced when we just directly beam stuff out of our printers or something.
It's like you think and therefore it is.
Yes.
It's the...
Well, we're just going to 3D print everything. So you're just going to be like, I want this book, and it'll just pop out.
I can't wait to have an entire house full of melted resin furniture.
Yes. That would be amazing.
Well, I guess that about does it. We've talked about what's good and bad about these things, and everything has its own advantages. Everything has things we need to be wary of as readers and consumers. And I guess my final thoughts would be join Goodreads. It's amazing. If you want to find things you like, if you want to avoid things you don't, if you want to find out if there's a scene that you might not like in that book that you were thinking about buying so you know for sure whether or not you want to read it.
if you want Amazon to know everything you've already read,
in that case, get a catfishing account. Don't put your real name there, and you can read what you want and not have to worry about Amazon and Big Brother watching over your shoulder.
And if you look up the members around this table, don't judge us for our lack of content.
And on that note, this has been another episode of Right Pack Radio. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and have a great week writing. See you next week.
The new theme songs for Right Pack Radio were written and performed by Meredith Tate. All copyrights remain with her. Right Pack Radio would like to thank STL Books for allowing us to record in their office. STL Books is an online bookstore specializing in new and used high-quality literature, children's books, and books written by or about St. Louis. Please visit them online at www.stlbooks.com or find their store on the Amazon.com website.